Come with me today as we set up a Haltech from scratch in a 2002 Subaru WRX. Let's take a quick glance at where we're at. Yesterday I went ahead and mounted the Haltech to the factory mounting plate that normally the stock computer sits on. And this is a, like I said, a 2002 WRX. This actually has a JDM version 7 motor in it, so they have the AVCS wires ran in from this iWire kit. It used to have this AEM inline wideband, but we took this out in place of the Haltech CAN wideband, and that's installed down here and just plugged in real basic as it is currently. If you have more than just the CAN wideband, I do recommend you give it its own power, and they provide the adapter for that. I don't have it in here because we just have one wideband, but it runs through the firewall there, and this will fit with the kick panel. Once we're all done, it'll be nice and, you know, covered up like factory. But right now we're still on the stock computer because we're waiting for the patch harness adapter. As soon as that shows up, FedEx says it's out for delivery. We're gonna get this thing tuned up, but I'm gonna get it loaded on the dyno anyway. See, it doesn't run so good on the current setup. Ooh, we're out of gas. Well, we might actually run to the gas station and then we'll get it on the dyno. So driving it down here, had a weird, noticed a lot of blue smoke, and then I had to kind of think back, and we had some problems with the way the AOS was routed from when whoever installed it. So hopefully that's fixed and it'll stop smoking on the dyno. If not, I don't know, sometimes these AOSs, there's just a lot of like built up oil in the system because it was plumbed wrong. So hopefully that all blows out of the PCV and everything, and it doesn't just chug blue smoke all day. But if it does, we'll figure out what's going on with it. It has arrived. So we were just waiting for this so that we could get the install finished here. So we're gonna do that for you right now. So it's pretty basic install here. You effectively just unplug the factory computer. It's got about, what is it, 5 connectors. Sometimes they don't like to come unplugged. All right, factory computer out. This guy comes with an air temp sensor. We already installed one of these, so we're gonna go ahead and just put that back into inventory because we did that. So it's a little adapter box that goes from the factory Subaru harness to this little Haltech harness they give you. So on the board in these, there's these jumper settings, and we have to basically get it from a JDM model to a USDM model. So we want, and you can see the jumpers are defaulted to the JDM style. So we're gonna go ahead and take these top 2 and just drop them down 1 slot. Voila. And now we are, oh, almost gotta take this bottom one too. All right, now we are US spec. So let's put that back together and plug it in, and the car should start right up. And they include some pins for the extra connector here, which are Tyco pins, and an absolute pain in the ass. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, but it is what it is. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna plug in this to here. Plugged. And then this guy here. These are really stiff the first time you plug them in. Get rid of that. And then this just plugs into our ECU that's already up in the car. The light is on down there, and here we go. Let's plug in. And we're in. There it is, the default configuration, not set up for a Subaru. So don't try to tune your car with this all hooked up. Strongly recommend, before you do any firmware updates or anything else, that you disconnect your coil packs. I haven't had it happen to me, but I have heard from other people that they've had issues with coil pack failures after firmware updates. So getting those connectors disconnected is a good idea. There's a couple different ways of doing this. I recommend doing the firmware updates first and then importing the new map. Some people like to do the map first and then do the firmware updates, but I find that it works better if you're doing all of your tuning, all your importing in the new firmware, not the old. So we're going to go ahead and update the firmware, get everything upgraded. We haven't actually named this car yet, so it's just going to dump it down here. It's fine. And here it goes. This is going to take a minute. We're going to let it do its thing. Now that we have the firmware updated, we're going to go ahead and import the new map. Now, I don't upload maps to these ECUs, and I think it's super important that we talk about the difference between the import and the upload. So if you upload a map, let me find that. So if you upload a map, you're going back to whatever firmware you had on the car, and that can cause some weird firmware mismatches and bugs and all kinds of problems. So if we import all of the settings, then we're basically just going to end up with all of the settings into the new firmware. So this is going to be a GD WRX including STi, but it's important that this is the drive-by cable car. So WRX Elite 2500, here we go. Probably this one here. Doesn't really matter because we're going to change everything anyway. So here's the map that we're going to open and import in. It's this WRX MY01 to 05. That should be the part number for our harness here. Yeah, 141220. So that's this part number here. There, you can't really see it, but anyway. So now it's going to ask us if we want to upload it, and we don't. We're just going to import. So this here, it would say if you wanted to like upload down here, not what you want to do. So we're just going to go ahead. We're going to leave this vehicle information block open, but we're going to grab everything else. And we're going to import selected items. It's going to take a second. That's it. So it's going to want to restart. There's a bunch of errors, a bunch of other things. It restarted the computer, heard the fuel pumps come on, so that's a good sign. I'm going to go plug the coil packs back in, and then we'll get to the base configuration, and then we'll start the car just to make sure it works before we go through and change everything. Alright, so in theory, we have enough stuff now set up. We should be able to attempt to start the car. We're going to go ahead and just crank it and see what happens. So that was the first time I've started this car on a Haltech, and I would say it worked well. We just installed it just now and just put it in the car and just fired it up. It does kind of sound like I have a bit of a misfire, so need to look into that. But I think it's just I have the latency wrong on the injectors. So we need a little bit more fuel. It's already doing fuel trims. It's not bad. Not bad. Let's see if our cam control is working. So it appears to be working. And target scaler, I don't like any cam control until we're well warmed up, so I usually just do it that way. In fact, we'll ramp it in at 140, and then our target angle, yeah, we'll let that kind of do its thing. This is way too aggressive in my opinion for target angles, but we're going to start at 0 anyway, because when you're tuning a car, you never want to start with something like that. You always want to start everything at the lowest possible and then add it in and see what changes. So yeah, but hey, I mean, it's working. Everything seems to be working really well so far. I need to go in, and I do need to get some more information on these injectors. So they are WRX 750s. I don't have a flow card for them, so I'm going to go try to find one off WRX's website and get some latency data in here. Now, when you go to WRX's website, they do give you some Subaru calibrations for ECU flash. We can use this information to kind of give us a basis. You know, it's probably not the best data, but it's going to work. It's going to help. So here is some injector latencies: 6, 9, 11.5, 14, and 16.5 volts. Let's see if they have it for. They don't. Kind of wish they just gave it to you at normal voltage, but we can put those values in. That's fine. That's the fun part about Haltech, is you can do whatever you want. Oh, 6.5 is the minimum. You can do whatever you want within limits. So what was the numbers again? Oh, spreadsheet. You're probably not going to be down at 6.5 volts very often anyway, unless you're having an issue. So there's our voltages there, and then we can just copy right off the 0. Put that in. We don't have pressure differential in here, so there we go. Alright. There is some latencies. Didn't seem to make much of a difference. Our fuel trim is still pretty dead on the base map that they give you in here. And for a car that has no extra sensors and things, I'm not going to have to do a ton of extra work to get this to run, but I did want to kind of go through some of the things I turn off and turn on. Specifically in, like, so we have our flow rate. I love doing this by pressure, but we don't have fuel pressure being logged on this car. Injector, basically the injector firing angle table, you can do a lot of math on this to get it to work right. You can run these values, or you can just do what Subaru does and make them all 360. I tend to find that the values they put in this table they're okay, but I kind of don't love all of them. So I change it a little bit here. And this is a good blanket starting spot, but you're obviously, if you have different cams, different setups, you're going to need to change that. But yeah, Subaru just does 360. Done. Send it. That's all they do. Let's see. Transient throttle. They use asynchronous. I don't like asynchronous. Let's just listen to it go. It sounds pretty good. If we turn off async, it sounds about the same. So if you can get async to work, then great. If not, then don't worry about it. The load rate deadband, I tend to have to raise it a little bit, and I'll show you what I mean. If we come to enrich rate, you can maybe see the little box. Let's see if we can kind of catch it as it moves here. If I give it a little bit of throttle, it seems pretty good. But if you see it jumping a lot, see how it kind of jumps? But if you're holding constant throttle and it's jumping around, then you may need to raise that deadband. Or the other thing you can do is change this this duration to something like 3, even, yeah, actually that got better, even 5. We'll do 4. 3 was good. Yeah, there we go. And tip-in throttle is one of those things you just kind of have to feel. So that's that. We could probably get our home travel a little bit closer if we went in and synced the timing. There is a default timing sync that these have set up in the trigger system, and it's 40 degrees on this car, and that tends to be correct or very close to correct. If you want to confirm your trigger edges are correct, it's falling edge, we can actually come to the oscilloscope and we can scope this and see and make sure that we are falling edge. Alright, so what we're seeing is the live oscilloscope of the yellow is the crank signal, and this red here is the cam signal. And you can see when you're looking to decide if it's going to be a rising signal or a falling signal, what you want to look at is which is the most abrupt. So as we rise, if I started detecting this on the rise, it would be kind of difficult to tell what voltage for it to sync to. But on the fall, it happens abruptly at a very specific point. Same thing with the crank signal. It kind of rises slow and then it drops fast. And because of that, we definitely want to run the falling edge. Now, if you saw them the other way around, you'd want to run the rising edge. And so let's see, are we on falling? Yeah, we're on falling, we're on falling. So falling edge is where we're at. Now in their timing map, I find that the timing crossover into boost is a little bit aggressive, and that's going to make spool up kind of suck. So I'm going to take a little bit out there. Up top, their timing is pretty conservative, but don't just throw in the timing numbers off your open source map. You have to remember this is calculating everything just slightly differently, so you really need to find minimum best. If you just start throwing in timing numbers off the factory Subaru map, like you might run 18 degrees at 20-ish pounds up top, you might find yourself knocking real hard, real fast. So always start low and then go up. So now we're just going to start driving the car. We're going to see what it does here as we drive it. If I can get it to go into gear. Good old 5-speed synchros. Never great. Tack is working. Speedo's working. Everything's working, so that's good. Coming to fuel. I mean, it's looking pretty happy. Logger is set up. Let's go ahead and just start doing a poll. We're going to watch our wideband here and see what happens. Third. Fourth. There we go. We found fourth gear. 0.74, 0.72, or a little ridge. Alright, little ridge. It's fine. We'll take a look at the log. Looks like we made about 14 pounds of boost. Roll it into it. Yep, 35, 46 RPM. There it is. There's our log. Woohoo! You can see a little bit on the ridge side, and we had a short-term fuel trim pulling fuel as well. I know I added short-term fuel trim. So there's short-term fuel trim, pulling fuel. So we're going to go ahead and just start tuning the car. Got that knock control set up and added to the data logger. So let's do another pull with knock control active and see what we can see here. So it feels pretty low on timing, but we don't want to do anything with that just yet. So we're going to go ahead and look at that log, and then we're going to see where our knock thresholds were, and then we'll see about adding some timing in, which is more than likely what's going to happen. Took a little fuel out. It liked it, but it definitely spooled a little bit slower. I'll show you here. Lost a little bit of spool up from taking that fuel out, so we'll see if we can get that back. And then boost overshot a little bit. We're at 0 duty cycle currently, should be. Let's check. Boost control output. Yeah, so 0%. Yeah. 0.76. 6 short-term fuel trim. Let's check where that's at. So we're pretty close with the fuel change we made. Short-term fuel trim is almost dead on. And ignition timing is very low. Oops, that's manifold pressure, sorry. Ignition angle, very low. Ignition angle, only about 10 degrees. Knock threshold, we'll do the threshold and then we'll do the signal. Signal is way below our threshold and our threshold is quite low. So let's add some timing and see what that does now that we know fueling is good. And we're just going to do pulls here up to about 4,500. We're not pulling the red line yet. And we're at 14 pounds in here. So let's take this whole row and let's go up 2 more degrees. And that should be fine. That looks good. And let's go ahead and remove another degree from here. See if we can get a little bit of that spool up back. And we haven't even started with variable cam. Oh, come on, I'm not low. I'm not that low. So we haven't even started with variable cam. We might have a little bit of cam drift here. Yeah, just a little bit as we go up in RPM because we're not commanded any duty cycle. So in a little bit we'll get the cams going and then we're really going to see some gains. But I do my cams completely different than how Haltech does them. I tune the car off the cam, then I tune the car on the cam, and everything that the cam is going to do, timing, fueling, and airflow wise, is done through corrections, not through the base table. We want our base tables to be our base tables, and then anything like cam control to give corrections to base tables. You're going to want to get your closed loop table zeroed for now, especially because we're at 14 pounds default, not like 7 like the stock turbo. So we're going to start with 0 and then we'll find out and we'll tune this in a minute. Alright, we're a few pulls in and we're starting to get kind of tidy. We pulled out just past 6,000 and I've got a pretty gnarly tire shake, so I'm going to go check the torque on all the lug nuts and recheck the tire pressure. But what you might notice is we are, let me actually clear fuel, I don't care about that right now, on this dyno. We are actually, as we've added some timing, we're not creeping quite as bad, which kind of tells us we're at the timing spot. You'll notice that boost will creep. You can see some of these earlier pulls where boost was very low. We were getting a lot more creep. But now that we're kind of at our timing spot, we're starting to make power just under 250 by 6,000 at 15.5 pounds. We're going to run about 20 pounds on this, probably a little bit less, maybe like 19. So 19 pounds on this, and let's go. Last run. 19 pounds, we should start seeing the boost or the power come up, but for now what we're going to do is we're going to start doing AVCS tuning. Haven't had any knock yet. Everything looks really good from that standpoint. So here's our knock signal and here's our threshold. So we're still below our threshold. We're not really seeing any power, so we're kind of at minimum best. Air fuel ratio looks pretty solid. I mean, everything's looking really good from the log standpoint. So let's start doing some stuff with AVCS after I check the wheel and tire setup and torque. And actually, it's lunchtime! Oh, thank you. Taco Jalisco. Delicious. Taco sponsored by Nicholas and Gary. We got the queso tacos with the consomme, and we got the chicken tacos. Heck yeah, thanks guys. I appreciate sponsored tacos. If you would like to sponsor some tacos, head over to willtunefortacos.com and follow the links to buy your tuner a taco. Okay, back to the data log. We went ahead into the tune, and let me show you. We added 10 degrees of intake cam advance to the tune, and when we did a pull, we picked up power, which is good. but it also has a fuel trim now of about 5.5%. We never quite got to our 10 degrees, so we need to add a little bit more duty cycle to the duty cycle base. So we'll add like 4% more and 4% more, which makes sense. I usually see around 40. But we also need to get this fuel into the tune. So if we went into our base table and we added 5%, that would add that 5% whether or not the cam control was active or it wasn't. So sometimes cam control fails, or for whatever reason the cam control isn't active, like you're below your coolant temp. There's a bunch of reasons. But if the cam control failed and we have it in the base table, it's going to run super rich because it's adding that fuel to the base table. So let's go ahead and do a correction based on cam position. So we'll do a generic correction here. The default one they have in here is gear, but we're going to go ahead and change this. Get rid of gear. We're going to do let's do RPM on the bottom, and then let's do cam control intake angle. We're going to do 0. Let's get rid of all these. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. I don't know if we'll go up to 30 or not. And RPMs, let's do 500. Let's do 1,000. So we have 0 to 8,000, and we have 0 to... Now we know at 10 degrees here. So now we added that correction in the tune itself. We added that in there, and now our fuel trim at that 10% is pretty much dialed. Oh yeah, we picked up a lot of power too from it. But that's beside the point. The fuel trim is pretty much 0 now through here. This is like 1% here. And pretty good, you know. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and keep doing this. We're going to add more cam timing and overlay and see what happens. And as we overlay, we're going to kind of build our cam curve shape. I was playing with timing a little bit more, and we actually got some knock. So let me go ahead and hide the knock or mount. But you can see our knock sensor suddenly starts seeing a little bit of noise. And when it starts seeing a little bit of noise, it starts pulling a little bit of timing. Now, is this real knock or fake knock? Well, it's at 6,000 RPMs. Pretty rare to get fake knock at 6,000. You usually get fake knock right at tipping. But let's go over to the dyno graph and let's take a look here. Come on, dyno graph, come back. Alright, so we had the red pole is no knock, the blue pole is knock. Now I added a degree of timing, and you can see we were picking up power, but we didn't pick up as much power as maybe we would hope for. And let's see, we're not losing any more boost, so it's not that it's just more efficient. We have the same cam position. I'm thinking it's real knock. So we're seeing that the threshold of noise that the knock sensors make is now over the threshold. So we're going to go ahead and take that degree back out. We had a pretty good gain here at like 5,000, so we'll probably just take that timing out past about 5,200. We want this down here to give us that little bit of torque and horsepower. So that's how you tune. So we set the cam control to 20 degrees. We're getting 20 degrees. Air fuel, let's see, we have another bit of a correction now. We're adding about 5%. Where it's making power off the 20 degrees, this is what's interesting. So it peaks at 5, but then up top it's subtracting 5. Well, let's take a quick look at the dyno graph and see why that might be. So what we have here, that's the last two runs. Let's pull up. This was 10 degrees of cam advance, and this is 20. This is across the board. And you can see we picked up some power down here, picked up no power through here and then lost power out the top. So we definitely are 10 degrees past about 5,000. So let's go back into our tune file, go back down into cam control target angle. Past 5,000, we are definitely only at 10 degrees. Now, at 4,500, we didn't pick up any power, but we didn't lose any power. Same thing with 4,000, we didn't pick up, but we didn't lose. Actually, we picked up a tiny bit at 4,000, and we picked up a tiny bit at 3,500. So everything below 4,000, let's keep it at 20. But from 4 to 5, I guess we don't have, we're not doing 50 splits, let's do 50 split. We need 5,500. 4,500. So we'll just go ahead, it already smoothed it, so good to go. Well, that's about it for this project. Sorry, I kind of had to rush ahead at the end, but you would never really know there was a Haltech down here, except got a cable. I have these right angle cables to make it fit under the kick plate better, and the kick plate I put a bolt in from the back and then use a nut and then the plate and then a nut, which lets it kind of sit flat on it instead of the normal just little guy, because we do need about another 1.5 inches of space to put all the wiring harness and everything else back there. But once it's there, I mean, it looks nice, it looks professional. You wouldn't know, again, unless you see that there's a cable sticking out. And I just like to leave the cable plugged in so it's easy to access. So that's that. Haltech installed, tuned. Car runs great, pulls good. It's a little down on power. We were kind of wondering why we were a little down on power, so I started chasing what was some noted mechanical concerns early on. That turned out this engine just has kind of low compression across the board. It's about 120 to 130 psi per cylinder, which on an EJ207 is real low. They should be around 170 to 180. So for the compression, the numbers make sense. It'd be nice if we had a healthier motor, but luckily everything that's installed will work moving forward no matter what engine is in this car. As long as it's a dual AVCS JDM engine, it should just rock. Or sorry, single AVCS JDM engine, it should just rock. So thanks for watching, guys. I will see you in the comments, and look forward to more Haltech content for you.